Hey guys, MrPokke here, and for this particular video, it's gonna be dedicated exclusively to players who already own an E1 Tribbie and you're considering if an E0 Cyrene is comparable. All the things you're gonna be seeing over here is gonna be purely E0S1 on the upcoming Memory of Chaos 12 Sam Firefly boss to bring something new compared to the original guide. So if you already have an E0 Tribbie and you're thinking of should you pull for E0 Cyrene or an E1 Tribbie, that answer will ultimately depend on your second team if you can actually make use of an E0 Tribbie after you get Cyrene to replace her in the original team. Now, before we begin, I do want to talk about a couple of disclaimers. First of which, please check out the original Cyrene guide over here first to understand her kit and see how she even functions in the first place, alongside all the Crystal's hairs. The second is that the purpose of this video is not to cater for Cyrene, but rather the respective DPS mains for your box to see if you really need Cyrene if you already have an E1 Tribbie to begin with. So for example, if you already have an Anaxa with a Cerydra and E1 Tribbie and you're considering if you should get E0 Cyrene to replace your E1 Tribbie, then this is going to be the right video. This is to not show you to pull for the main DPS with Cyrene, because you pull supports for your main DPS and you don't pull DPS for your supports, and this is extremely important. So for example, if you want to pull Cyrene and you're thinking who is the best DPS to go alongside with Cyrene, then the answer is going to be your Castorice Remembrance flagship with Evernight as well as Hyacine. So you could start building the team from scratch right now in the upcoming banner. While you can definitely do this, just know that you're essentially chasing the current version 3 meta before version 2 in 2 patches, when you could have potentially saved these 4 to 5 costs from building a version 3 team from scratch. So once again, pull supports for DPS that you own and don't pull DPS for support before you even own them in the first place. So jumping into our test notes, so this is just kind of the rough summary I found from testing after hours and hours of different team comps. All units over here are going to be at E0S1 with E1 Tribbie with S5 Duns, as well as E0S0 Cyrene running the Herda S5 signature light code. Now I do want to say that the initial community comparison between Tribbie and Cyrene, I think is a little bit unfounded, because I ended up using E1 Tribbie alongside Cyrene pretty frequently when you look at the teams later on, and Cyrene was actually competing with another second mysterious man, Sunday himself. So it's not just E1 Tribbie, but it's also mainly because of Sunday. Relics are only going to be at a 25-ish effective subset, which is going to be a lot lower than what your account probably look like. So you can see the builds all over here. So I expect it to be a lot more performances for both E1 Tribbie, Cyrene, Sunday, or whatever the team is going to be in the actual live server for your own account. Now I specifically aimed my test today against the upcoming MOC 12 Sam Firefly boss to prepare for the potential single target environment, which will be one of the biggest differences compared to the entirety of version 3, which has been very AoE shield, as well as to lower your player expectations for E1 Tribbie being universal, because E1's Tribbie scaling is going to be a lot less prominent in a single target environment, especially because the true damage smart targeting function is no longer going to be applicable over here. For more details, check out this guide for Tribbie all the way back in the early access for Tribbie itself. Also, Sam does have a built-in anti-heal, which I think will be a very big concern for Castorice mains or even Mydei in the future, so I thought that this was a very good test to begin with. Now for this current test itself, as the numbers of cycles are going to increase, the differences became a lot less obvious between the teams, since using the Memory of Chaos buff was adding up a lot of damage between each cycle. Another thing is that if you want to be changing units, especially between Sunday and Cyrene, you would need your DPS to compensate for the different crit rate as well as the speed. So I kept all of my relics consistent throughout this entire testing, but for E0S0 Cyrene with, for example, Aglaea or Anaxa, and you were using Sunday previously, definitely fill in the missing 20 to 10% crit rate to ensure 100% crit chance, or at least as close as possible. Now some units may also perform better with DHPD over Hyacine, such as Aglaea and Anaxa, since Cyrene's dependence on Hyacine is not going to be shared with the main DPS, particularly against Sam with anti-heal, but there could also be an argument for E1 Tribbie synergizing much better with Hyacine, which can also improve your overall DPS. I also figured that using this will make the test a little bit clearer for players who already own Hyacine, which will make Cyrene question much more difficult when compared to someone needing to pull both Hyacine and Cyrene at the same time. I do want to say I will probably be making another dedicated video if you even need to pull Hyacine for Cyrene in the first place, so stay tuned for another early access coming down to a cinema near you. So for the first 2 teams, that are going to be where E1 Tribbie is going to be in direct competition with Cyrene, and the next 2 teams are where E1 Tribbie is synergistic with Cyrene and she's instead competing with an E0S1 Sunday. Now I did not include Final and Hyacine, which are the 2 of the 6 main DPS comps in Crystal's hairs, because Final first of all did not care about E1 Tribbie, and Hyacine is pretty much completely fine with DOT even with an E0 to E0 comparison. And with that, these are gonna be the results right here. Now, jumping off straight into Castorice, and I think I'm gonna be starting with the main course right away because I think most of you guys watching this video is probably wondering about this very team that I'm discussing right here, which is Castorice, Evernight, Hyacine. Then can Cyrene at E0S0 replace your E1S0 Tribbie? First of all, yes, you really want to pull for Hyacine before even thinking about Cyrene, at least for this comp, and then you come into this video, right? It's absolutely crucial you get Hyacine for Castorice first. Second of all, I do think that Sam is the perfect fight to illustrate why the HSR meta, it will never revolve around units or eidolons, and it's always going to be based on your environment, right? The environment will have a far larger impact on the units themselves. Kind of reminds you of in real life, where no matter how much you try, you are ultimately shaped and influenced by the surroundings as well as the people around you. So that being established, no, Sam does not make Castorice unplayable despite the anti-heal as well as the HP consumption. In fact, we are getting a very comfortable clear in both teams, E1 Tribbie or E0 Cyrene, and in fact, this team is the fastest clearing team of our entire roster today despite having the anti-heal mechanic. So the difference is going to be coming from your Pollux 200% charge versus your Pollux 100% charge over here. So this regarding a single target scenario, given how fast you actually charge Pollux when you're going to be using Castorice with the Remembrance flagship, very often you will find yourself in a situation where there's roughly a 5 to 10% overflow for new buff, no matter how well you try to not make that be excess new buffs, which will result in at least one Pollux being entirely wasted from the course of the entire battle purely because there's this excess 5 to 10% and you just cannot do anything about it. Now feather that in with the 200% Pollux multiplier dealing around roughly 7% more damage than 100% Pollux, even with E1 Tribbie, you can see how over the course of the entire battle, this damage loss will ramp up significantly over time, especially if the enemies are going to be having more HP or the fight just drags on even longer and longer. Now in a group environment, all of the additional overflow from the new buff will always lead to a slight DPS increase, but your E1 Tribbie value is going to be a little bit more prominent in a group environment compared to a single target due to your smart targeting. So for the E0S0 Cyrene, the one cycle was achieved just barely before the second cycle, and we essentially utilized Cyrene's 200% charge alongside with spamming her ultimate on Hyacine right before Hyacine turn to see if Hyacine really wants additional energy, which I realized that after all, every single time I would use my Cyrene ultimate, she always get the ultimate on the actual turn. So I do say that this time, using the ultimate on Hyacine was going to be giving us a lot of value for Castorice. Now I always try to hold out on Cyrene recollection in both wave 1 and wave 2 for as long as I can. So for wave 1, it was to trigger a double ultimate for Evernight and Hyacine right before Sam, and we refresh it with Cyrene's 27 stacks the moment wave 2 begins, and this was also where I was able to instantly secure a 0 cycle before even activating Cyrene's ultimate. Now for this particular point, I do want to say that this recollection stacking at the very first wave being so tied up behind, it is unironically a pretty good trade even for your 0 cycles, because you essentially backloaded your wave 1 burst damage into wave 2, making it you deal way more damage for the boss compared to wave 1. So often in 0 cycle showcase, I'm sure you have seen it for yourself, by having ultimates immediately, you've definitely came across situations where you don't end the fight exactly on your unit's last action, meaning you could have potentially squeezed out one more skill point, one more energy, or just one more turn for that unit before the next wave. And Cyrene's is extremely useful here because you essentially make use of every last possible action for your Castorice, Hyacine, as well as Evernight, and then you can instantly slam the entire buffs for the boss fight itself because you basically lost 0 action value since it always resets on the next wave. But for that, we'll say this for the 0 cycle content, so let's just move on to the final topic, which is going to be my pooling opinion for Castorice. So for players who already have a E1 Tribbie as well as full Remembrance team, including Hyacine as well as Evernight, you can consider skipping Cyrene because the performance of this team is already absolutely insane, even out clearing other Chrysos hairs with Cyrene and E1 Tribbie. If you do, however, want to make this team even stronger going to version 4, especially with potential single target environments, then be assured that Cyrene is still gonna be an upgrade over E1 Tribbie. Above all, pool Hyacine non-negotiable. Now moving on to our next unit where Cyrene is going to be competing with E1 Tribbie is going to be our man Anaxa. Now I did try out with Sunday instead of E1 Tribbie, but he was definitely going to be slower at a 4th cycle, whereas E1 Tribbie missed her ultimate to get Dance, which can maybe potentially squeeze in the 3 cycle as well as Cyrene. So generally speaking, Sunday is not going to be in competition over here. So first things first is that Cerydra's value is extremely important. I would say is the equivalent of getting Hyacine for Castorice due to the additional skill bounces and overall damage amplification, notably with Cyrene buffs, bringing down Cerydra's charge from 6 to 5, which is extremely strong, even for units such as Final. Now, this comparison, I would say, really showed Cyrene popping off over E1 Tribbie, even more so than Castorice's original team, because I would dare say, in terms of absolute damage increase, Anaxa's damage was much higher with E0 Cyrene compared to E1 Tribbie, whereas the Castorice team, it was already performing very well in both E1 Tribbie and Cyrene, albeit it was still favoring Cyrene a little bit more. Now, the key point over here is that while both E1 Tribbie and Cyrene cleared wave 1 in one cycle, it was almost 2 entire cycles faster for Sam itself alone, because this fight was perfect for Anaxa to spam all of his single target skill bounces alongside with Cerydra as well as the Cyrene action value advance. So for an E0S0 Cyrene, after you buff Cerydra, you have to play Anaxa like how you play him with Sunday, except with Cyrene's ultimate instead. So keep in mind that because Cyrene can time her ultimate whenever possible, you can try running a 4-piece Eagle or a faster Anaxa to make use of even more actions within the fight itself. This is especially important if you do not have an S1 Cerydra, because you're definitely going to be running into skill point issues at the start, which means you may potentially lose a Cerydra speed buff somewhere along those lines. Sam in particular broke extremely quickly with Anaxa skill point spams. He's pretty much the second best DPS crosshair against Sam for this entire fight, for those without Castorice, with or without Cyrene. Now, I would say that for players wondering what happened to Sunday between the Cerydra comparison is that because now Sunday, while he did give Anaxa more actions, more energy, and more skill points than Cerydra, ultimately the damage amplification is going to be worse than Cerydra herself, because the skill point duplication was going to be a lot stronger than Sunday's additional turn itself. Also, because we're going to be using Sunday with Anaxa, which is a problem we're going to be seeing later on, is that you have to time your Tribbie's dance after Anaxa goes right after Sunday, which means sometimes you're going to be missing out the entire time where Tribbie's ultimate gives you basically no value until Sunday actually pulls up Anaxa by itself. So for my personal opinion, for players who already have your E1 Tribbie, first get Cerydra, because the Cyrene buff works extremely well with Cerydra. If you do not have Cerydra, you can consider stopping your investment here, because you would need both Cerydra and Cyrene for Anaxa's entire version 3 Cyrene team comp. For this particular team, I would say that Hyacine is not going to be a must, because Anaxa can definitely still function with DHPD even in longer fights where you don't really care about the reckless tag in wave 1 for Cyrene in the first place. So DHPD is going to be viable over here. Now for the next unit is going to be where we're going to be running E1 Tribbie alongside with Cyrene, first of which being Aglaea. So Aglaea, technically you could run this without E1 Tribbie, where you run Sunday plus Robin, but E1 Tribbie was going to be the constant in both teams, so it's mainly going to be on Sunday. So first of all, with Aglaea's build in mind for Sunday, the lower crit rate should definitely be factored in, because you're going to be losing that 20% crit rate, where Cyrene, once you lose that, you're going to be losing quite a decent chunk of DPS as per any crit DPS you're going to be seeing. Now, since E1 Tribbie is going to be in play, we're going to be mostly discussing Sunday versus Cyrene questions, where your Aglaea mains will probably have, since most, if not all, Aglaea owners definitely have pulled for Sunday with Aglaea. So at the very start, Sunday was the only solution to Aglaea not losing Supreme Stance alongside Robin and Huo for the energy regeneration, thereby achieving your 100% ultimate uptime. Now, the issue with this team is that if you're going to be running E1 Tribbie alongside with, like, let's just say an E0 Robin or even E1 Robin, she was simply outscaling the benefits you're going to be getting from Robin, and Hyacine with E1 Tribbie completely destroyed Huehue's utility with pure damage multipliers. This was also true in my original testing for Cyrene's early access video, where I basically compared the version 2 team of Aglaea with Sunday, Robin, and Huo against the brand new Cyrene Tribbie team. It was like completely not even close. So at the end of the day, E1 Tribbie is going to be a definitive upgrade, even if you're going to be talking about Sunday. So as such, when it comes to your maximum damage output, despite Sunday not having a 100% uptime with Tribbie and Hyacine or even DHPT, it was worth the trade-off simply because E1 Tribbie was that much better, especially given our environment as we see nowadays. But this does pose an issue for Sunday owners, which is you cannot have 100 uptime on Supreme Stance unless you get either Robin or Huehue, or if you're going to be getting the E1 Aglaea. So with all these factors, it led to the perfect scenario where Cyrene was the easiest and most definitive upgrade for Aglaea, despite losing on Supreme Stance, because you essentially have none of the drawbacks from losing Supreme Stance, which is to rebuild your Government Maker stacks back up to 6 out of 6 again, easily making this the best team for Aglaea itself. For E0S0 Cyrene, we're going to be hitting 3 cycles, which is 1 over Sunday, if not for the MOC buff helping us do a lot more damage. We cannot achieve a 0 cycle for this wave 1, but it wasn't a concern because the same fight right after we get Cyrene only took 2 cycles to finish up the entire thing. We only saved our Cyrene's ultimates for Aglaea when Supreme Stance is going to be down and re-summon Government Maker at 1 out of 6 stacks. Other than that, it will all be Cyrene's personal damage after the initial Tribbie buff. Hyacine was helping quite a bit in overall damage, and we didn't see an ultimate drop off that much when we spam our skill against Sam, but I do believe that DHPD can definitely still be used with Aglaea at the same time, similar to with Anaxa in the first place. So for my personal opinion, for players who already have have an E1 Tribbie with Sunday, you should consider an E0S0 Cyrene to completely fix the ultimate uptime issues unless you're willing to go for the E1 Aglaea, which may still not guarantee 100% uptime with Sunday. DHPD, like I mentioned, can definitely be used over here over Hyacine because we're not getting wave 1 0 cycle regardless, and his personal buffs are going to be scaling very, very nicely with Aglaea. And now finally, we're going to come into Mr. Mydei himself. Just like Aglaea, E1 Tribbie was going to be used for both teams, so the test basis here is going to be E0S1 Sunday instead. Now the test was done in full auto for both teams since Mydei comp was one of the most auto-friendly in version 3, so I felt like this was a pretty interesting point for casual players wondering if you're going to be using full auto for all of the other different team comps. Now from Mydei, he was notably weaker than the other DPS due to anti-heal directly reducing his God Slayer uptime despite Sam having imaginary weakness, so even though Castorice and Evernight and Hyacine is going to be having the anti-heal, it is not going to be as strong because they can simply still charge up enough for Castorice procs dragons as well as dealing substantial damage with Evernight herself as well as Hyacine. Whereas for Mydei, if you do not have God Slayer, you're going to be losing out a substantial amount of damage for his own personal kit. Now the fight itself, I must say it was pretty boring, where you just basically have Mydei do all the Mydei things against Sam, with the rest of the teams doing support damage and reapplying buffs whenever they ran out, so there's not a lot of room to even manual the Mydei gameplay in the very first place. Between both Cyrene and Sunday, the most notable difference was the lack of crit rate in Cyrene as well as his higher speed compared to Sunday build, which was more tailored to. For an E0S0 Cyrene, the fight went very similar to Aglaea, but much more straightforward because you essentially use Cyrene's ultimate on Mydei whenever possible because it is not an action very advanced, but just one free God Slayer with a 200% crit damage multiplier, leaving Mydei at the exact same action value, which means you are not going to be wasting any actions whatsoever. This also reduces the reliance on timing Tribbie's dance with Sunday because you always had to wait for Mydei to go right after Sunday, similar to the question we're going to be posing for Aglaea previously. So my putting opinion for those Mydei mains, if you already have an E1 Tribbie and Sunday, you should consider an E0S0 Cyrene because it is a definitive damage upgrade with God Slayer having much more value than the extra turns, which by itself doesn't really deal nearly as much damage for Sunday itself. Hyacine, which is going to be extremely important for Cyrene stacks as well as the heals for Mydei, as well as Hyacine's own S1, so that's going to be that. So with that, I'm just going to wrap up everything that we've seen from these 4 main teams, which are most likely the common teams you're going to be seeing for E1 Tribbie and Cyrene. The summary: pull supports for DPS, never ever pull DPS for support, right? Do not pull Cyrene just for the sake of making your DPS clear faster for a brief period, because the fastest clearing teams will always be the next biggest version update. If you're looking for the best team with Cyrene, then the answer is going to be Remember's Flagship. If you're thinking if Cyrene can improve over an E1 Tribbie for your respective DPS, then yes, she will, benefiting some more than others. Aglaea and Anaxa upgrades are very strong if you want to main them, despite not being the best performance, which goes to Castorice Remember's Flagship, but then again, never chase mana with a DPS. E1 Tribbie on one hand is always going to be strong in AoE content such as Pure Fiction, even outside of the Chrysos Heirs, so replacing your Chrysos Heir E1 Tribbie slot with Cyrene can open up your team 2 or even team 3 for future team building alongside with using both units at the same time, sometimes even having them in the same exact team. So with that, we come to the end of this content. Hopefully this helped a lot for players who are wondering the whole E1 Tribbie, power creeping, Cyrene doing both, all that kind of stuff. So this is a little bit more of a transparency. Afterwards, I'm still going to be making up another video, which is going to be whether Cyrene wants Hyacine, as well as the 0 cycles, the relics, anomaly arbitration, all that kind of stuff. So please leave your thoughts and prayers for my editors as well as myself. Smash the subscribe button and let me know what you guys think in the comments below. My trailer is high-key dead. Whatever it is going to be. Hey guys, so welcome back. So for this additional follow-up video regarding the whole Cyrene situation, and that's gonna be E1 Tribbie versus Cyrene. Now I already know from the future that yep, there are definitely gonna be players that, oh my god, E1 Tribbie is obviously not gonna be as strong as a single target environment, so we're just gonna do the exact same thing, except this time it's gonna be an area of effect environment featuring Flame Weaver, his goons, and all the kind of things. We're gonna be doing the exact same team. The only we're gonna be changing is pretty much gonna be the environment we're testing it. So first up is gonna be Castorice with Evernight, Hyacine, as well as Tribbie. Tribbie is gonna be E1S0 with DDD. Everything else is gonna be pretty much unchanged. So we're just gonna jump right in. I do believe that this team shouldn't have too big of an issue when it comes to clear. We're just gonna see where it goes. Okay, the standard stuff gonna be happening over here. Activates this. We're gonna wait for him to summon the goons first. Okay, let this go right here. Okay, Tribbie is gonna activate this. Ika is gonna go in. We're gonna let our Evernight blow this up first, then summon our next jellyfish, and then we're gonna activate our Tribbie's DDD, which will then push out my Castorice into the next wave. See if we get ourselves the 100% over here. If it's not gonna be sufficient, then okay, it's not gonna be sufficient, so we're just gonna be letting go of this over here. I kind of want to let Evernight take a little bit up in here, get off the jellyfish. Gets off the follow-up attack over here, which means our Tribbie is gonna be able to get our little bit of energy. See if we can save a little bit more of the new butt for the next wave, because we're definitely gonna be dealing a little bit too much damage over here, so I want to slow things. Okay, I don't think I can slow things down, so we pretty much just have to go for it. Yeah, because it's definitely gonna be dying here. Yep, definitely killed way too fast, but it is what I do. Alright, get ourselves the buff over here. Evernight is gonna summon the jellyfish. We're gonna let him summon the goons first, because I want to instantly deal with all of this over here. Alright, so we're gonna instantly one-shot the flame reavers. Very nice, very nice, very nice, very nice. Okay, Castorice is gonna be able to... Ooh, one guy didn't really die there, which is a little bit unfortunate. So we're gonna come here, get on our Hyacine ultimate. Okay, that's really good. Gets off the kill. Hyacine is gonna activate the skill here. Tribbie will get us the follow-up attack. From this, he's gonna summon his next wave. So we are definitely gonna be able to clear it in this particular phase 2. Yep, I'm almost certain this is gonna be phase 2. Kills out all of the mobs. Okay, 10% HP, goes into the next phase. He's gonna hit us in the phase, which is gonna be completely fine. So let's just go for our skill first, because this is gonna let me summon my next jellyfish. Okay, Tribbie is gonna action very advanced. I will summon my next jellyfish. Jellyfish is gonna go in. See if we can get close to a 100% clear here. Not quite enough. We are gonna be getting 100%. Now I do want to... Okay, I already know that we're gonna be trying to deal as much damage as possible, because we either clear it in this strength or we don't. So I want to just deal a little bit more damage with Mika. See if we can get rid of the goon. Okay, we do get rid of the goon. So at this point, we can summon our dragon to just deal as much damage as humanly possible. 48% health remaining. Go. Alright. Slams this back down to 25%. We're gonna get a little bit more charge for the jellyfish. So this is gonna be the last 25. Ika is gonna go in. Jellyfish, if we can get it, then we're gonna get in the zero cycle here. 15% HP, so it does appear that we're not gonna be able to get a zero cycle. Comes this back out. Hyacine goes for the skill, and then 3% HP is just pretty much gonna be there. So this is gonna be a very clean one cycle running our E1 Tribbie. So just taking a look at the build over here. Everything is gonna be the exact same. I'm just doing everything in a single take. So Castorice, right? These are the builds. Like I mentioned, the gears are definitely not gonna be as optimized as compared to what you expect from your own account, because you know I basically just use what I have. Right, so if you can optimize this a bit, I'm definitely sure you can just make this as a zero cycle with your own accounts, because you can definitely improve the gears. But that's not the point, right? The point is to basically just see the comparison right now with the current relic investment we have. So now I'm going to change out Tribbie and add in our Cyrene at E0S0 to see how we're going to be faring. So this is going to be E0S0. We're going to be running 203 speed, right? So we're running 2+2 piece. Didn't even add with a 4 piece. It is what it is. Then this is going to be a little bit more of the additional speed buff. Honestly, this crew is pretty much redundant. If you want to go for like a 2-piece bone or the 2-piece tree over here, this is going to be fine as well. But without further ado, let's just jump in. Cyrene activates this. Then Castorice is going to go in. So for the Flame Weaver portion, one thing that I do note with Cyrene, we've already gotten the clear from the previous cycles, is that the 200% multiplier against Flame Weaver is actually going to be pretty nice, especially if you are able to kill the clones immediately. Okay, we can just let go of this right now, because we're going to be getting a little bit of a hit from the fat guy. So it's going to be a little bit more energy. This is going to come in. See if we got ourselves the ultimate. Yes, we do. Guess it's the ultimate. If we can break this guy. Okay, not able to get a break, so it is what it is. Okay, it's going to summon the things over here. Gets off the Castorice on this particular hit. Alright, that's completely fine. Slam this back down. A little bit of the action very advanced from the S1 here. So we're going to be getting this to 0 AV. Okay, swipes against this. We definitely have quite a lot of damage in excess, similar to the very first wave. But because we have our Cyrene's ultimate having the ability to basically backload this into the next wave, we can squeeze out a little bit more action. Alright, so we're going to try to squeeze out as many as we possibly can. So we're going to cast our skill over here. I'm going to intentionally try to hold this so I can hold on to my Hyacine's ultimate. We're going to be taking a little bit of a hit, but it's going to be completely fine. Alright, so now we're gonna activate our March a little bit more Bomba. Unfortunately, the jellyfish targeted him instead of the goon, so it is what it is. Okay, we should be able to just instantly get off the clear on this particular guy. We're definitely gonna be overcharging by quite a bit. Okay, and we instantly get off the clear here. So now I can actually save. You can see the benefit of running the Cyrene over Tribbie is that you can actually save all of your elements in the wave 2, which is something I mentioned in my earlier guides. This mechanic is very, very nice for zero cycling. So what essentially is going to happen is that we're going to let go of our Castorice Dragon. We'll summon our Evernight ultimate first to get EV back up on field. Alright, then we can let this take a bit of a hit. And now we can activate our Hyacine ultimate to generate maximum value. Okay, then we're gonna be able to cast this. And now we can let go of Cyrene's ultimate to basically get 100% charge for everyone. Alright, we're gonna get 100% charge for everyone. That is good. So first buff goes to Castorice, second buff goes to Evernight. But at this point, the difference is gonna be very, very minor, so it's not gonna be that deep. So we give this to Evernight. So now it's gonna be Evernight's turn. You can see from Jellyfish. We are gonna first let go of our ultimate right now. And then we're gonna immediately let go of our second ultimate. Okay. So the Jellyfish is gonna take a little bit of a hit over here. So at this point, because we are gonna be taking a couple of hits from Flame Weaver, we can let go of the hit first. And then we can let go of our Hyacine ultimate to generate as much charge as possible. And we're gonna getting a little bit more energy for Hyacine herself. He's not gonna break Flame Weaver, so we're gonna take a couple of hits. So ideally, this gets up to 200%, which it does. So we're gonna get this to 200%. Evernight is gonna try to break the goons here, so we can get a little bit more of a splash damage. So before Pollock takes the hit, I want Cyrene to do a little bit more AoE herself, so that we can save a couple of bounces straight for Flame Weaver herself. Sorry, Flame Weaver itself. Okay, a little bit lesser. So now this is gonna be 200% multiplier. Ideally, the clones have definitely died from the first couple of blasts, so you can concentrate most of it into Flame Weaver right here. Alright, 18% HP. So now we're gonna try to do the exact same thing. Okay. Get this off. Last 10%, so we'll see if we can let Ika and Cyrene get the kill here. And we can convert this into the wave 2 instantly. Last 7%. Castorice comes here. Hopefully this gets us the kill. Then we can proceed into wave 2. 1%. Okay. It is what it is. We're just gonna instantly let go of our Q, so that he can just get into wave 2 right now. Alright, he gets into wave 2. So at this point, we're just going to try saving up a little bit more again. So we're going to first summon our Jellyfish. So we have one more little thing over here to generate a little bit more charge. 200%, fantastic. Then we're going to slam in the 200% multiplier. Straight in. Okay, 69% down, we clear the entire wave. Evernight is going to come in here. And the Hyacine is just going to generate a little bit more charge for us. Does appear that we're not going to be getting the zero cycle. So we're going to just generate a little bit more charge here. And then Cyrene is just going to go for the Q. And then it's going to go into wave 2. Evernight is just going to be playing as per usual here. So we're going to just do a little bit more damage. We are going to be able to get a charge. I believe at this point we can pretty much go for the kill right now. So our last 21%. Let's try to just do a little bit more damage. So while the dragon is up, we're getting a little bit more rest pen. Okay, last 30%. Duplicate this. And then we're gonna be able to easily get the 1 cycle. So you can see that even with the AoE environment, it was very, very comparable to E1 Tribbie. In fact, it was almost the exact same, considering that E1 Tribbie is technically going to be 1 cost more, because we are going to be running our E0S0 Cyrene against an area of effect environment. In fact, I do believe they want to optimize this a little bit further. Same thing. It is probably going to be able to get the 0 cycle off for both E1 Tribbie as well as E0S0 Cyrene. I'm not going to change the gears that much, but if you want to get off the 0 cycle, I think this team is 100% doable. So that's going to be the very first team for Castorice, E1 Tribbie versus E0S0 Cyrene against area of effect environment. Oh yeah, on the very first try. So that's gonna be that. So now for the next team we're gonna be testing is gonna be up against Anaxa with E0S0 Cerydra, E0S0 Hyacine, as well as the E1S0 Tribbie. For Anaxa, just do know that we didn't have the 100% clear rate because we're not gonna be running Sunday. So you do want to fill this up in the actual server itself for your own Anaxas. Other than that, I would say that if you are gonna be running DHPD for this team, I think it's gonna be 100% doable because DHPD does scale very, very well with the additional attack scaling buffs. But because we did do our previous test, changing only E1 Tribbie as well as Cyrene, I don't want to change too many variables, so we're just gonna stick with Hyacine for this particular segment. And also, frankly speaking, Hyacine does do pretty well against the Flame River mobs, so I don't think it's gonna be that big of a deal. So we're gonna summon this guy over here, get off the buff, and then we're gonna get off our ultimate. Okay, then after we're gonna be getting our Cerydra ultimate, Tribbie is gonna get us the DDD. DDD is gonna activate, gets us the action for the advance, and now it's gonna be Anaxa's turn by himself right here. So we're just gonna go for the break. Let's apply this right now, and we'll see if we're able to deal enough damage running E1 Tribbie to get the 0 cycle on the first wave. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. For Hyacine, we're just gonna constantly do our basic attacks because we need to spend a little bit more skill points for Cerydra and Anaxa himself. So this is fine. Get this for a skill on Anaxa. Gonna take a couple of hits here, which is gonna be completely fine because we are gonna be running Hyacine. She's gonna do a little bit of AoE. All good. And now Anaxa is gonna just go for the Quadra skill. So that's skill 1, skill 2, skill 3, and skill 4. You can see that the damage that we're gonna be getting over here is gonna be a little bit far away from the 0 cycle. So I'm just gonna give the Hyacine a little bit more energy herself because she does have a little bit lower of a shortfall. Alright, that's fine. This is gonna die. The actual Guardian, you can see, is it's roughly 15-ish% HP remaining, so I'm not gonna try going for the 0 cycle since this is our first try anyway, so we don't have to worry about it. So let's just go for this. Tribbie is gonna go for the basic into the DDD, and we'll see if we can save our action a little bit for the next wave. So I think we're definitely gonna be killing here with our skill. So because that's gonna be the case, I will just make this bounce go into the next wave going into Flame Reaver. So we're gonna be generating a little bit more weaknesses, right? So now on the Hyacine's turn, we can activate our ultimate to maintain our ultimate uptime. Alright, that's good. Now I'll save my Cerydra ultimate after he summons the goons here, so we can deal the highest possible amount of damage. So he's gonna go here. This is fine. And then now Cerydra is gonna come in for the ultimate. We're gonna be at 8 out of 6, which is quite good. I need to save a skill point for Tribbie. And since we're already at 8 out of 6, I can just go for the basic attack. Next is gonna start doing the duplicate skills. That's 1, that's 2, that's 3, and that's 4. Now we're gonna activate our Anaxa ultimate, see if we get ourselves the DDD. Okay, yep, we do get ourselves the DDD over here. Gets rid of 2 of the mobs, so we're gonna use one last DDD so we can kill the last one. Yes, we do. So now Hyacine is just gonna go for the basic, continuously speaking. Then Tribbie is gonna go for the skill. Cerydra goes for the skill herself. And then now he's gonna start redoing his cycle again, so this is gonna be completely fine. Unfortunately, because he summons the goons here, we are not gonna be able to get the full clear for Anaxa. But with Cerydra's ultimate, we're still gonna be able to get the little bit more damage against the mobs. Right, more Tribbie ultimates. We'll use Hyacine ultimate as well, just to deal as much damage as possible, so that we can thin out the mobs for Anaxa to deal single target burst against Flame Reaver. Okay, that's good. So now we're going to be going for the Quadra skill. Unfortunately, still not quite enough damage over here against this. We're going to wait for this to pop out. Let's see if it's able to, for us to get into the second phase from our Hyacine ultimate. Sorry, our Hyacine base into Tribbie ultimate, so that we can save Anaxa's ultimate until his phase change. Right, so this is dude is going to go. Then we're going to activate our DDD. Hopefully this kills. Then he goes into phase 2. Okay. Does get to phase 2, so we're going to let him take a hit here. Summons his goons, activates our ultimate to apply our weakness. Then we can implant our skill from Cerydra right here. Okay, 100k. Bring this back up. Now we're gonna continuously use our basic attack on our Hyacine. Tribbie is gonna continuously use our basic as well. Unfortunately, Anaxa shouldn't be able to get off the Quadra bounce here, but it should be fine because we did get rid of all of the clones in this particular rotation. We're gonna activate our skill to refresh our speed buff. He's probably gonna be summoning again, so we're just gonna let him summon. Alright. And then he goes for this. See if we can get ourselves the DDD, because it is quite close to getting the 2 cycle clear right here. Next one should be getting an additional action, 3241. Yeah, we should be getting an extra action here. So we do get an extra action off of Anaxa. I do want to see if I can save this ultimate. Yeah, I should be saving this ultimate. So this is going to be our first burst. Then second burst. Third burst. Fourth burst. That's good. Okay, we break off 2. Let's activate our Cerydra first into our Anaxa. I don't think we are getting the kill. Okay, maybe we should be able to 5% last hit. If this doesn't kill, then it's gonna be a definitive 3-cycle dispatch running our E1 Tribbie. Last 3%. Okay, very close to a 2-cycle. So that is gonna be with E1 Tribbie extremely close. Basically, the last final hit from the MOC debuff, which got us the 3-cycle, but basically a Western 2-cycle, if I say so myself. So that's gonna be E1 Tribbie. The gears are gonna be shown as you can see over here. Right. Everything is going to be E0 except for the E1 Tribbie. So the next thing I'm going to be changing is just basically take out the E1 Tribbie for our E0S0 Cyrene, and we'll just see how our performance is going to be faring from them, right? So now it's going to be running our E1 Cyrene. Everything from this is basically just going to be a single take, so no edits, whatever. And frankly speaking, I want to spend my airtail a little bit on the select, so it's going to be a little bit easier. Okay, so I do know that it is probably not going to be possible for us to get the 0 cycle on the very first wave. So we're just going to be going for a more slower pace run to make use of as much energy as possible generated on the first wave. So this comes in for the ultimate. It goes in for the booms. We'll see if we can get us the clear onto the Ascended, but I don't think it is going to be possible. Okay, get us the break from Anaxa. Alright, 181. The 2-2 should be able to get us the kill right here. That's very good. Cyrene gets us the skill. Cerydra gets us the basic on Bro. Alright, that's fine. Little bit of an AoE, it's all good. So Bro is gonna come in with a hit, which is completely fine. Let's see if we can get ourselves a free Hyacine ultimate here. If it's possible, that's really good. Okay, that's really good. Let us first get this in up. So we are gonna be able to get our Cyrene on this current rotation. So 21. That's good. That's good. Okay, you can see that from the HP, it's actually kind of close. But the thing is, I don't think it's possible for us to get us the 0 cycle in this current wave. So what I'm gonna do is basically just stall this out to the next wave. Alright, I'm just gonna stall this out into the next wave and generate more skill points and all the kind of stuff, because I know for a fact that with my double skill on the Anaxa, it is probably not gonna 0 cycle. We're gonna be left like 20%. So we're just gonna go and make advantage of the additional energy we're gonna be getting. Alright, so this is gonna be all good. We'll take our time here. Just trying to deal with this as slow as possible. Ideally, I don't even want to use my Cerydra's ultimate just to make use of all these additional action values we're going to be getting. So we're just going to continuously use our basic on Bro over here. Just store a lot more. Okay. Now we're going to be able to get our Quadra. Okay, now we can get this in. So this is going to be 8 out of 6. We'll see if we can get the clear for this current rotation. If we cannot get the clear, okay, we definitely cannot get a clear. So we're just going to go for the basic. Alright, then Cyrene is going to come in. Activate our ultimates for everyone. Okay. Get in the ultimate for Cerydra. Gets in the ultimate for Anaxa. I'm going to just save everything else here for the next wave. Right, I'm going to save everything else here for the next wave. She'll let this in. Let's see how much HP there is remaining. I don't think we're going to be able to kill the ultimate, so we can just go with this. Now we'll save these two for Flame Weaver itself. Alright, so this is going to be a Quadra skill. So this is definitely going to be overkill over here, but at least this will bounce off to the next wave. Okay, get us the ultimate from Cerydra instantly. That is good. Then Hyacine turn begins. Stacks this back on. Alright. Then we're just gonna continuously... Okay, we have quite a bit of skill points left, so we can just go for the skill here. Cyrene is gonna do the Cyrene things. Gets this to 8 out of 6. Alright, he's gonna hit us with the double. Okay, we do get an ultimate from Anaxa. So before our Anaxa is gonna begin his thingy, so let's just first pop off our Quadra skill. Then immediately after the Quadra skill, we're gonna let go of the additional action value advance from Cyrene. Alright, gets off the additional action variance from Cyrene. Pulls up Anaxa. Okay, gets off our ultimate first. Alright. Do get off almost every single one of the clones. There's gonna be a duplicate. Alright, that's good. So that's gonna be another Quadra skill right here again. There's a pretty substantial damage if I can say so myself. So we can actually go for the basic here. Because I want to save up the skill for both Cerydra as well as Anaxa himself, right? So we can go for this. We get this up. He's going to recover. And then once he recovers, we're going to be going for the double skill here. So we can instantly just try to deal as much damage to the clones as possible. Okay. Get this up for AoE. Alright, Hyacine is gonna go for the skill here. That's great. Alright, Hyacine can go for the skill again because this increases our overall healing. That's fine. Okay. Then now we can just go for the double skill. Right now we can go for the double skill. Alright, he's gonna go into wave 2. I'm gonna pull bro back up. So this is gonna be pure single target damage. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to waste our... Because we do have the 40% damage reduction, but we just kind of have to roll with it. Alright, at least this is single target. Then now he's gonna summon his goons. Cyrene will start popping off her own AoE, so this is gonna be fine. And then MOC debuff is gonna come in over here, which is quite nice against everything else. My Hyacine is definitely gonna basic, so we're gonna basic. Get us the AoE. Cyrene is gonna go for her own skill. And we're gonna be exactly at 12 stacks. So the moment my Anaxa ends his turn, we're gonna do the action very advanced. Pulls bro back up for the action very advanced to Anaxa. She's gonna let go of her own ultimate. Gets off the ultimate against Flame Reaver. Gets us the burst clear right here. 43% HP remaining. Then now we can go for the Quadra skill, which should be getting us the 2 cycle, right? 6% HP remaining. Once we get off a little bit more stacks, we should be able to get the 2 cycle dispatch. I do not know if we have enough over here to get us the clear edges. So let's just try our very best. So we're gonna go for the basic. Go for the dude. He's gonna hit us a little bit. We're gonna be very, very close, but we're gonna be getting a little bit more AoE. Alright, that is gonna be the AoE. He summons his goons. So let's see if this is enough to get a clear. It might be a 1% angle, not gonna lie. It might be a 1% angle. Oh. Okay, it actually is a 1% angle, but there is pretty much gonna be a 3 cycle dispatch. 1 cycle for wave 1, 2 cycle wave 2, but it is almost pretty much exactly the same as compared to the E1 Tribbie. Alright, so as you see just now, even in an area of effect environment, so AoE against Flame Reaver, you can see that we did basically clear in the exact same speed for E0S0 Cyrene against our E1S0 Tribbie, right? So that is gonna be our testing for Anaxa. Yep, pretty much literally cleared in the exact same cycle. We made use of MOC debuff to clear both of them at the exact same time, totaling 3 cycle for both, right? So now we're gonna move on into the next testing. This testing is gonna be where we're gonna talk about Anaxa and Mydei, where both of them will be running the E1 Tribbie alongside our Cyrene. So it's more so a test of our Sunday versus Cyrene replacement to see if it's gonna be worth it in an area of effect environment. So first things first, we're gonna be running this. Alright, so for now in this particular test, we're gonna be testing out Aglaea running against our Cyrene. So it's gonna be E1 Tribbie, E0S1 Sunday, Hyacine as well as a... Okay, for this particular case, I unfortunately already activated my eidolon for Aglaea. So this is actually gonna be an E1 Aglaea, but we're gonna do the exact same test for our Cyrene. So at least the Cyrene eidolon is gonna be unchanged. So just keep in mind that at this point, it's gonna be E1 Aglaea because I was already doing the other testings for the 0 cycles and everything. So that's gonna be that. We're just gonna activate this. Okay, everything else is going to be as per usual. Let's get a little bit more of a war armor so we can get this up as fast as possible. Okay, Sunday will pull us back up. We are just going to get this break right here. So we get off our Garment Maker. Then once we get off Garment Maker, we can activate our Sunday Ultimate. Sunday Ultimate is going to be given to our Aglaea. Aglaea is gonna... Okay, before Aglaea goes, I really want to get the war armor stack though. So, let's just go for this. Okay. And now we're gonna be getting the DDD. So we're almost gonna be at full energy once again. So that is very, very nice. Continuously use our basic with Hyacine to break even more war armor. God Maker will go. So now we want to focus our attention to the Ascended, because it's gonna be more damage. I will unironically just activate my turn right now before Sunday pulls us back up. to see if we can get our 0 cycle dispatch on the very first wave. Okay, this is 422. A little bit of AoE. This will come back up. Okay. Good damage, 571. Okay, we do in fact get the 0 cycle, right? This is gonna be the power of E0S0 Sunday. Keep in mind, this is E1S0 Aglaea, so this is not gonna be E0. So we're just gonna continue. Okay, actually for Hyacine, we can just cast our heals, so we can rotate our ultimate a little bit better. Alright, Gamma Maker continuously goes. He's gonna hit us with an AoE. That's good. Anyways, our DDD right now, because we're 17 action value. Oh, it actually pushed up our Sunday here. Okay, this is not ideal because, this is not ideal because our Sunday speed is way too slow compared to Aglaea. So, a little bit of a misplay there if I can say so myself. But we do need to refresh our numerosity anyway. So, at N1 we'll see if this is going to make a key difference towards the end. But keep in mind, you should have waited for the Aglaea plus Sunday. Right? So, that's going to be my bad. Okay. Do get off the double break over here. We're just going to pop this off. Get this in. I don't think it's going to shift that much because we should still be getting 100% uptime on my E1 Aglaea. So it should be good. Tribbie goes in for the basic. Aglaea should be able to get rid of both of those goons at the same time. Oh, okay. Unfortunately, it is not going to be... Okay, to be fair, it is still okay because I'm pretty sure we are going to be able to get out of this phase 2. Yeah, I think this should still be phase 2 because it's 4 stacks of damage reduction. Okay, Sunday pulls us back up. See if we can get ourselves to phase 2 right here. 14% remaining. We're gonna wait for Government Maker to go first. Alright, last 5% Government Maker goes. Okay, this is still gonna be phase 2. So actually, objectively, it doesn't really change anything at all. Gets off the DDD. 1%. Hopefully, it doesn't waste the MOC debuff on bro. Alright, it is what it is, right? It is what it is. So that is gonna be our Government Maker. Come back in. Gets off the ultimate here. Okay. I don't think it would have 0 cycle regardless, but I kind of want to see if we're gonna be able to get this in a 1 cycle dispatch. Okay, at this point, our speed tuning is still gonna be off because of our lack of a button. So it is what it is, especially with DDD, right? If you are going to be running DDD with Sunny and Aglaea, the speed tuning is always going to be off. So it's not something that you can prevent. Okay, this comes back in 694. That's quite good. Double hit over here. We can just pop this. Pretty sure once Aglaea is going to be going. Okay. That is fine. We do get off this. Let's see if we can get the extra turn right now. Don't think we can get the 0 cycle, or rather the 1 cycle. See if we can squeeze out an additional Sunday action. Oh, it's enough. I think it should be enough. So it should still be a 1 cycle dispatch on this particular team, right? Yeah, it should still be a 1 cycle dispatch. Pause back in. There is gonna be 1 cycle running our E1S0 Aglaea. I'll bet there was a little bit of a misplay at the start because we kind of messed up our speed tuning order, but still gonna be 1 cycle. So I don't think it would have changed at the grand scale of things. Maybe a little bit faster, like half a cycle instead of right at the edge of 1 cycle. So that is gonna be our E1S0 Aglaea. And now we're just gonna move on into our E0S0 Cyrene, replacing our E0S0 Sunday. Alright, let's proceed. This is gonna be with Cyrene instead of E0S1 Sunday. So previously it was gonna be a 1 cycle dispatch right on the dot. So let's see if we can change anything here. First thing that I want to take note is to see if we can actually get a 0 cycle on the very first wave, because we were able to deal sufficient damage for the Sunday rotation, right? So let's see that. Summons his goons. And now it's gonna be the exact same. Alright. Dude, it's gonna go. See if we can get ourselves the additional stack for the energy. Alright, we can cast the DDD right now. Yep. I think we should be able to get our ultimate here. Okay, we're gonna instantly get our ultimate. 36 AV is gonna be fine. We're gonna see that the next action for Aglaea is gonna be roughly 50. So we only lost 14 action value, so it's not gonna be that big of a deal. Okay, everything else is gonna be as usual. We're gonna skill with Hyacine so we can basic with Teep into a skill with Cyrene. Okay, that's good. Aim for the attack on aim the attack on the Ascended. Oh my god. Aim the attack on the Ascended. Alright, then we continuously aim for the Ascended. We're definitely going to be able to cast our Cyrene ultimate on the very first wave, so it shouldn't be any issue over here. hit us a little bit more for the AoE. See if we can ideally get us... Okay, I don't think we're going to be able to get our energy here, unfortunately, because I need to cast my... also, I can go for the skill. Cyrene basic Garment Maker should be able to get us the additional ultimate. Yep. Okay, that's good. Okay, that was really, really unfortunate. 130 HP. Yeah, 130 HP is really unfortunate. Okay, if that's going to be the case, we're just going to go for the basic. Garment Maker goes. Activate ultimate. That was, if we had an ultimate here, that would have given us a lot more value. So it is what it is. For Aglaea, it's going to be a little bit awkward because generally speaking, this is like hella useless since we already got full value from Aglaea. So we have a little bit more value from getting it to E1 Tribbie. I will see if we can make use of Aglaea's basic here to get a kill. If she cannot get the kill here, then we kind of have to wait for the Supreme Stance Garment Maker on the counter. So it is what it is. We are first going to give this the additional defense down. Right, because now we actually apply our defense down stacks when we're going to be in Supreme mode. So this is going to be AoE. We're trying to save our ultimate for the next wave. I think we should definitely get off the kill here. Force it. Oh, I think Tribbie should be able to get out of the kill. Okay, but unfortunately, the cycle was going to be a little bit wasteful, so it is what it is. We're going to go for the ultimate right now, or rather the basic. You can see that we are kind of missing our crits because we do not have Sunday. So the damage is definitely going to be falling off here by quite a bit as well. We do have quite a lot of the skill points here. I don't think we need to save too much. Okay, so for the rest of the rotation, we're going to continuously use Cyrene's ultimate for ourselves. Alright, assuming that we need to give it to Aglaea to replenish our stacks immediately. So this comes back in, 604, goes back in for the basic. Hyacine can just go for this. Okay, we're definitely going to be losing our Garment Maker right here, but because we do have our stacks here, we can instantly regenerate our Supreme Stance stacks immediately, right? So we're going to go for this first. Summon this. Now we give our stacks to Aglaea. So we're going to be instantly going back to 6 out of 6. So we'll see if we can get our ultimate back in right here. Yes, we do. So we're going to summon this. We'll let the Garment Maker go in first before we activate our Tribbie DDD. Okay, that's good. We activate our Tribbie DDD. And then we're going to see if we can get the kill with the Cyrene ultimate from herself. So we can just get into the next rotation. 184 into another follow-up. Okay, not quite enough. But we'll see if we can get off the clear right here. So this is going to be 28%. Tribbie is going to go. We need to apply our skill for Tribbie later on so we can continuously apply our stacks. We can just go for the basic here. Then Garment Maker should just kill this other guy. Yeah, that's good. So this is going to be... This should be wave 2, which is, I believe, almost the exact same as E1 Tribbie. 0%. In fact, a little bit better. Because E1 Tribbie, we had to waste our MOC debuff on the clones. But to be fair, we granted the RNG a little bit better instead of like misplaying with the Sunday timing. I think it would have been the exact same, right? It should have been the exact same. We have 3 skill points there, so we're just going to be going for the heal. We'll see if Ika can get rid of the kill right here. Okay. We do have to have very low HP, and we are going to be losing our Garment Maker pretty soon. But we do have our ultimate. So at this point is where I'm going to be just activating our Hyacine first. Just deal as much of the, get rid of the damage reduction. So this is going to be 4 stacks, so it's going to be giving us a lot more damage. This should give us the enhanced auto. Okay, that's really good. Enhanced auto comes back in, so we're definitely not going to be losing our Garment Maker over here anymore. So we're just going to come for this. This is fine. So Cyrene goes back in. We are at 4 stacks of the damage reduction. So we're going to instantly activate our dance. See if we can squeeze out a little bit more action over here. 28% left, we're at 21 stacks, 22. I do believe we can let go of one more of this basic, because otherwise it's going to be going into a little bit of an excess. So just go for our usual normal EBA from the ultimate. 14%, 13%. Then this is going to come down into 8% remaining. I believe we can just go for the skill into basic, and then we should be able to get the 1 cycle dispatch. Now we should be able to get a 1 cycle dispatch. Okay. 8% left, 7% left. There's going to be one more hit. If all else fails, Nah, there's no such thing as awesome. This is definitely a clear, right? So this is gonna be 4%, 3%, and then if we don't get a clear here, we definitely clear Cyrene. But we are already gonna be clearing. So that is also going to be a 1 cycle clear running the Cyrene setup E0S0 in comparison to E1S0 Tribbie. So I think so far from all of our testings, all of the DPSs clear in extremely similar speeds between E0S0 Cyrene and E1S0. Anaxa was the only one that was like the exact same. Castorice was like a little bit faster for E0S0 Cyrene. I think for this, it's pretty much almost the exact same as well. Alright, I reviewed the footage. So basically, the clear, I'm just gonna summarize everything in the table from towards the end of the video. So we basically cleared in pretty much the exact same number of action value, but for my E0S0 Cyrene, my Aglaea did have one more entire ultimate left to actually do a little bit more. So in terms of like strictly DPS damage speaking, E0S0 Cyrene helped us achieve that little bit more rotation. In case Flame Weaver had that little bit more, like maybe like 10% HP left, then we would have cleared faster without E0S0 Cyrene, right? So with that out of the way, let's just jump straight into the final test, and that is gonna be our Mydei alongside with our Sunday as well. So this is also gonna be in a similar situation where my Mydei is also already gonna be at a E1S1. So just keep that in mind for the testing. Both Aglaea and Mydei are gonna be E1S1, whereas the first two team is gonna be still at E0, right? So we're gonna take a look and see what are we gonna be finding here. Keep in mind, this Mydei is also going to be the same as Aglaea, where we are going to be running E1S1 Mydei because how we're doing Ardennes is a Creator server. So just keep in mind that for both Aglaea and Mydei is going to be E1, but for Castorice as well as Anaxa, they're both at E0, right? So at this particular team, we're just going to activate our Hyacine ultimate. Gets us the max HP build at 14,000 HP, which is really good. Okay. We can't activate our Tribbie ultimate just yet because I need to get my buffs back on first. So first we get this. Then we get this, then we get this. Alright, so that is gonna help us into a very nice little rotation here. Don't waste any of the DDT value. If you're gonna be running S1 Tribbie, then I think the action value is not gonna be that important, right? Because you're not gonna be running DDT anymore. So you can activate ultimate whenever you want. Okay, Mydei is gonna get a little bit on later. I believe that we can just kind of just go for the basic. Then Tribbie will go for the basic on the Ascender one, because this is the one with high HP. He is gonna start summoning his goons again. Or rather, he's gonna do the hit. We do have a God Slayer here, which is very nice. 1.08 million, which is really good. We have 2 more hits. I believe this should also be looking like a 0 cycle. Might need the Mydei ultimate. Oh, okay, unfortunately, I take that back. We are not going to be getting the 0 cycle on Mydei here. Yeah, we're not. Okay, we're definitely not going to get the 0 cycle on Mydei. A little bit off. I believe at this point, I'm just going to stall a little bit. Alright, he's gonna cast this, which doesn't really matter. Here's Mydei a little bit here. Tribbie, honestly, you can just stall. Right, just stall a little bit. I want to refresh my buffs. Then Mydei is gonna come in. Alright, that's all good. So we're gonna jump into this over here. I'm gonna wait for after he summons the goons. See if he kills Mydei. Okay, he does in fact kill Mydei here. We're gonna activate our Hyacine out first before Mydei let go of his God Slayer. And then we're gonna apply our Tribbie's field, so we can apply our Numiosity. Or actually not Numiosity. Unfortunately, Mydei really let his thingy go. We do in fact get off the break on the goons, except for one. What is this called again? Guess who lives here? Alright, my bad. That's guess who lives here. We're gonna give our Sunday back in. Mydei can continue on his rotation. Just now I should have let go of my Mydei ultimate a little bit faster. But it's gonna be okay. Alright, then we're gonna come this back in with the another enhanced skill. Hyacine just constantly spam skill, not gonna lie. Because we should have quite a decent amount of skill points. Tribbie goes for the basic. He's gonna go for another AoE, which is all good. God Slayer activates, kills out the other 2 clones. Oh, actually they did not die. A little bit unlucky that they did not die. So let's just tie this back up with the additional stalling over here. Okay, we bring bro back up. Okay, then we're gonna get this back in for our out here. 477. Hyacine and going for this. Hopefully, it can actually get us the kill. 1% is crazy. Oh, we do get a kill here, so that's very nice. I'll wait for him to cast his thingy. Okay, so all of the minions are gonna die instantly because of the E1 Mydei. So this is gonna pop in over here. Hyacine activates the ultimate on Hyacine's turn. Now towards Mydei is gonna go for the Sunday Mydei. I'm not too sure if we can able to get the 3 cycle dispatch because it's looks to be a little bit far off, but we'll see. 51% HP. This is gonna be skill. 46. Yeah, against just this single target environment for this particular juncture is gonna be a little bit more rough. Yeah, there's no way we get the 2 cycles, so we're gonna be going for the 3. Okay. He summons his goons. Ambush debuff hits. Okay, 125. We're gonna bring bro back up. Let's cast our ultimate first, then we refresh our Sunday buff. Okay. Okay. Gets out 2 of the goons here. 1 point. Oh. Okay, 1.6 minutes the E1 Mydei. So that is gonna be a 3 cycle clear running our E0S1 Sunday. So that is pretty much gonna be a lot better compared to the previous E0 Mydei. I think we believe we've got either 4 or 5 cycle in the original testing video. So that's gonna be that. I'm just gonna instantly swap back into our E0S0 Cyrene. So this is pretty much gonna be our final test to see if she can actually replace our Sunday when you use both Cyrene as well as E1 Tribbie on the same team, right? So that's gonna be that. Comes back in. I believe we did not get the 0 cycle on the first wave. So we're gonna see if this is gonna be a necessity after we get off this place. I don't think we're gonna be able to get off the 0 cycle on this very first wave as well, because I don't think we have enough stacks for Cyrene. Because this is actually a little bit slow, but we'll see where it goes. Okay, good thing about this team that we can actually activate our DDD instantly. So we don't have to wait for Sunday. So we instantly get up our E1 Tribbie field, so we should be doing at least more damage in that sense. Or we can actually go for the skill here, so we can go for the basic on Tribbie, then skill on Cyrene, right? So we do get off the kill on all of the goons. Cyrene casts the skill herself. We have 1 more action left right before the thingy begins. So let's cast our ultimate right now. And then we're gonna be getting up our next skill. Tribbie comes back in, this is gonna be 20 stacks. Okay, I do believe we get our... Yeah, we do get 24. But the question is just whether we can kill this with 24 stacks. And the answer to that is I don't think we can. I actually don't think we can. Let's just see what's up, right? Let's just see what's up. So we skill, cast out. Okay. If we can one-shot it, fantastic. If we cannot one-shot, then it is what it is. But we didn't lose too much value. So we're gonna give the buff to Tribbie. And then we're gonna give the buff to Mydei. So this is gonna be a free God Slayer. Okay, let's activate our ultimate right here. Okay, we get our Mydei ultimate, and this is gonna be a free God Slayer coming in. See if we need the okay. Okay, we do get off a 0 cycle on that particular location. Okay, that's really, really good. So we are able to basically do that. I don't think it is pretty much possible we're gonna beat the with the E1 Sunday, or rather the E0 Sunday. But we'll just see where this goes from now. But we did manage to at least secure a 0 cycle on wave 1. So this is gonna come in. I'm gonna wait for him to hit me in the face so that we can do a little bit more with the Tribbie field. Okay, Tribbie comes in for the DDD. Mydei will get a little bit more action value advanced. That's good. And then instantly cast off our Cyrene ultimate. Gets us our E1 Mydei. And then you're gonna slam back down with the huge God Slayer, which should kill all the goons. 2.5 million. Yep, actually gets rid of every single goon, so that's absolutely exceptional. So we're just gonna save a little bit of skill point for Tribbie later on, because we are gonna be almost running out of our passive. So this is gonna come in. He's gonna summon again, which I believe is gonna trigger my next God Slayer. Okay, exceptional. If this clears... Okay, 11%, 1%. I think that's fine because I can save my Cyrene for the next hit. So that's gonna be 1%. He's gonna come out. He's gonna hit us in the face. And then he's gonna do whatever that thing is gonna be. Activates our Cyrene ultimate during Cyrene's turn. Or rather, a Hyacine, my bad. Gets off the Tribbie AoE. Ika is gonna go. This should be full ultimate for Teep afterwards. We need to save 1 skill point for Teep, but actually we can get out of a heal here because we have 1 more base attack over here, so that's gonna be fine. So we cast this. We get this. Cyrene can honestly just go for the Mydei pull up right now. Alright, this is a free hit. Alright, Mydei is gonna come in. Okay. And then we're gonna slam this back out. 35% health remaining. Pull this back up a little bit more. Oh! The DDD ruined my order. Because it pushed my Tribbie up to Hyacine. Okay, the exact same mistake I made. Okay, this was the same mistake I made. Because if your unit is too slow and you get DDD, they push you more than the faster unit. So because Hyacine is so much faster than Tribbie, we are actually gonna be missing on the Tribbie bucket, which is a huge misplay from my end, so that's my bad. But in any case, we are down to the last 25% HP. Hopefully, it's not gonna be game-changingly bad. Let's just see where we go from here. Because we should be able to get 1 more Mydei God Slayer regardless. Alright. Okay. Alright, I'm gonna let him summon his Okay, 12%. get this back out. See if we can get off the double kill right here. If we get off the double kill, then this misplay wouldn't have happened. Okay, yeah, we definitely get off the double kill. So we're gonna send in our Mydei God Slayer one more additional time. And that is going to be a very, very definitive one cycle dispatch, I believe, before Mydei even activates his God Slayer. Okay, now we go. Yep, so that is gonna be a very, very definitive one cycle. So I think like between both, this was probably like the most obvious increase in terms of all of the 4 teams so far. But to be completely fair, E1 Mydei just makes him so much better against area of effect targets that yeah, having Cyrene to duplicate this every single time is definitely gonna giving you way more of it compared to the E0S0 Sunday, right? So with that, I've pretty much come to the end of a pretty quick and dirty video where I basically compare my E1 Tribbie against the E0S0 Hyacine to kind of show you guys the differences between the 4 main team comps that you're probably considering on running Cyrene. Did I say Hyacine? Okay, I meant Cyrene. Running Cyrene alongside with the rest of the team, namely Castorice, which is gonna be your main DPS, Remembrance Flagship, with Anaxa, Aglaea, as well as Mydei, with the 3 less important, the attack scaling, Chrysos Hairs. Between everything, I would say the table is gonna be shown as here. For Anaxa and Aglaea, it is pretty much almost exactly the same. Mydei's damage increase was the most obvious if you unlock the E1 Mydei. And then for Castorice, E0 Cyrene was actually going to be slightly faster compared to E1 Tribbie. But yeah, I can kind of just wrap up this entire video. For area of effect content, similar to the one on Flame Mirror when you need to kill the mobs as fast as possible, you probably wouldn't feel a big difference for these 4 main teams, except for Mydei if you unlock his E1. If you do not have an E1 Mydei, I would say even at the E0 Mydei, you're probably going to be seeing at least a little bit more rotation from the God Slayer, right? So I would say if you already have E1 Tribbie and if you believe that the content that we're going to be seeing in the future version 4 is all going to be area of effect, then frankly speaking, the value for E0S0 Cyrene is going to be a lot lesser compared to, let's just say, the single target environment from Sen in the previous gameplay that I showed you guys just now, right? But on the other hand, if you're going to be going into version 4, and if you think that we're going to be getting quite a lot of single target environments where you're going to be releasing Sam, 1 target, 2 target, then you can think the E1 Tribbie value is going to be at least a lot less noticeable compared to E0S0 Cyrene, right? So hopefully this video helps you guys form a little bit more of a better judgment for Cyrene's kit, and if you think you really need her for E1 Tribbie, so that's both in single target and OE, and I think this is at least a good enough comparison, at least on your live server. So I'm going to end over here. I have a couple more videos that I'm going to be wrapping up very, very soon, so let me know what you guys in the comments below. Wholly overworking, word of the day is going to be AOE. Join YouTube, use code for 10% give us out as well as global shipping. All the best. See you guys next time. Take care.